Police! Everybody get down on the ground now.
Don't move. Keep your hands where I can see them. You're under arrest. Hands behind your back.
This is political theater. I am innocent.
Mr. Davis, did you authorize the payments? He looted the pension fund. I can't believe it. These files connect you directly to the shell corporations.
This is impossible.
The ballroom fell silent before the applause began. Under a rain of gold light and camera flashes, Zara Williams stood at the center of the stage in a silver gown that looked as sharp as the smile on her face. The host had barely finished saying her name before the crowd rose to its feet. Businesswoman of the Year, Zara Williams! The applause thundered around her. Phones lifted, faces turned. People admired power when it wore confidence well. Zara stepped to the microphone, took the trophy in both hands, and looked out at the audience like she owned not just the room, but every dream inside it. "Thank you," she said, her voice smooth and controlled. "People love to say kindness always wins. I don't believe that. Winners are not remembered because they were kind. They're remembered because they won." A few people laughed nervously. Others leaned in. "Life isn't fair," she continued. "It never was. You either learn to use the game, or the game uses you." The audience clapped again, louder this time, captivated by the force of her certainty. From the outside, Zara looked untouchable. A self-made corporate star, intelligent, elegant, ruthless in the most glamorous way. She had the awards, the title, the recognition, the expensive apartment, the luxury car waiting downstairs, and the kind of presence that made people straighten their posture when she entered a room. But the truth about Zara Williams did not begin on a stage. It began years earlier, in a smaller office, with fluorescent lights, stale coffee, and a friendship that still believed trust meant something. Back then, Zara was not the woman on the stage. She was ambitious, yes, but she was still climbing, still hungry, still standing close enough to ordinary people that she remembered what it felt like to be overlooked. And beside her, almost every day, was Nia. Nia Gray was the kind of person nobody feared until it was too late to underestimate her. Quiet, hard-working, brilliant in a way that didn't beg for attention. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't strategic about charm. She didn't know how to sell half-finished ideas with perfect confidence the way Zara did. But she knew how to think. Really think. She could sit with a problem until everyone else gave up, and then solve it with a level of clarity that made it look easy. That was her gift. And one evening, in the dim glow of her apartment, she made the mistake of sharing that gift with the wrong person. "I got you your favorite," Zara said, stepping inside with takeout and a grin. Nia looked exhausted. Papers were spread across the table. Charts, market reports, a draft presentation, sticky notes covered with ideas and numbers. Her hair was tied up messily, and she looked like she had been carrying the company on her back for a week. "I finally got offered the new role," Nia said, trying to sound excited. "The salary is decent, not amazing, but it's a step." "That's great," Zara said warmly. "You've earned it." Nia laughed tiredly. "Maybe. But listen, forget that for a second. I've been dying to show someone this." She pulled Zara toward the table. "Our company keeps throwing money at new clients," Nia said. "Everyone's obsessed with acquisition, but they're ignoring the people who already trust us. I've been working on a client retention strategy. If we improve loyalty by even 20%, annual revenue could jump by nearly 40. I broke down the implementation in phases: rewards, follow-up systems, personalized communication,
customer feedback loops, product refinement through data, everything. Zara's eyes moved over the pages. On the surface, her expression was admiration. Inside, something colder stirred. Nia kept talking, unaware. I've barely slept. I know it still needs polishing, but I really think this could change everything. Zara slowly nodded. This is brilliant. You think so? I know so. Nia smiled, and in that smile was all the innocence the corporate world punishes first. I'm presenting next week at the executive meeting, she said. I'm nervous. They'll love it, Zara said. Honestly, this is promotion-worthy. Nia laughed softly. You really think so? I do. Can I take a closer look? Maybe I can suggest 1 or 2 improvements. Of course, Nia said immediately. You know I trust you. There it was. Trust. Such a beautiful word. Such a dangerous one. Zara gathered the documents and gave Nia the exact smile a thief gives before locking away someone else's future. I'll go through every detail, she said. I promise. Nia leaned back in relief. You are the best friend anyone could ask for. The following week, the executive meeting began the way all career-defining meetings begin, with nervous silence and forced confidence. Senior executives filled the room. Charts glowed on a screen. Growth had slowed over 2 quarters. Pressure hung in the air like humidity before a storm. The CEO folded his hands and looked around the room. We need fresh thinking, he said. New strategies, new opportunities. So let me ask a simple question. What can we do to significantly increase market share and strengthen client retention? There was a pause. Then Zara stood. I have an idea. Across the room, Nia looked up, confused but calm at first. Maybe she thought Zara was about to support her.
Maybe she thought this was the setup before calling her name. But Zara walked to the front alone. Over the past few weeks, Zara began, I've been analyzing our company's growth patterns, and I noticed something critical. While we've invested heavily in attracting new customers, we've overlooked one of our most valuable assets, the customers who already believe in us. Nia went still. The room listened. Research shows that improving customer retention by just 20% can increase annual revenue by as much as 40%. So instead of continuously overspending on acquisition, I propose we strengthen relationships with existing clients through 3 practical strategies. She clicked to the next slide. A structured loyalty and rewards program. Proactive engagement through regular follow-up and personalized communication. And a feedback-driven data model that improves products and services continuously. Nia's face lost all color. The executives nodded, impressed. These initiatives are practical, cost-effective, and scalable over 6 months. The result will be stronger loyalty, higher retention, increased referrals, and long-term revenue growth. Zara paused at exactly the right moment. I believe this strategy can transform our future. Applause. Real applause. The CEO smiled. Excellent presentation, Zara. This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we've been looking for. Nia stood up so suddenly her chair scraped the floor. That's my idea. The room froze. Zara turned slowly, as if offended by the interruption. What are you talking about? She asked. That presentation, Nia said, her voice shaking. That was my proposal.
I shared it with you because you're my best friend. A few executives exchanged glances. Zara tilted her head. You shared a rough idea. I improved it. Nia stared at her. No, you stole it. And then Zara said the sentence that split their friendship open forever. Do you have proof? If you're already hooked into this story, take a second right here to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because what happens next doesn't just destroy a friendship. It sets off a chain of betrayal, secrets, and revenge that changes every life in this story. Nia looked around the room, desperate for someone to see what had just happened. But corporate rooms are full of people who recognize injustice and stay quiet if power is wearing a nice enough suit. I trusted you, Nia whispered. Zara's voice was calm, almost pitying. In business, trust doesn't get you promoted. It gets you left behind. And just like that, it was over. Not because Zara was right, because Zara was believed.
The CEO called her presentation exceptional. He praised her leadership. He announced, effective immediately, that Zara Williams would be promoted to Senior Strategy Manager. The congratulatory emails came fast. So did the benefits. Executive access, a company apartment, a new car, health coverage, parking privileges, board visibility. Her name moved upward in the company chart, and with it, the way people looked at her changed almost overnight. Yesterday, they had barely noticed her. Now, they stood when she walked in. Power has a perfume of its own. Once people smell it on you, they start treating you like you were always important. That night, Daniel took her out to celebrate. Daniel had loved Zara before anyone else called her successful. Before the award circuits and executive doors and prestige. He had been there when she had nothing polished enough to impress the world. He knew her old dreams, the unedited version of her ambition. The part of her that once believed success would make life feel safer instead of emptier. Over candlelight and wine, he reached across the table and smiled. I've been thinking, he said. Maybe it's time we start planning our future, our home, our family. A long silence settled between them. Daniel felt it before he understood it. Zara? She looked at him, but the softness he loved in her was gone. We need to talk. His smile faded. What's wrong? I've changed, she said. My life is different now. I don't understand. I need someone who matches where I'm going. Daniel sat very still. I've always stood beside you. I know. But? She looked away. Love isn't enough. The words landed like broken glass. He let out a disbelieving breath. So you're leaving me because I'm not rich enough? Zara did not answer quickly enough. And silence, in moments like that, is confession. Daniel leaned back slowly, pain moving across his face in waves. I loved you before the awards, before the promotion, before all of this. I would have loved you if you lost everything. For the first time that night, Zara looked shaken, but only for a second. Daniel stood. I hope one day, he said quietly, you learn what success actually costs. Then he walked away, leaving Zara alone with a half-full glass of wine, a city view, and the first crack in the perfect life she thought she was building. But success is addictive, especially when it arrives after compromise. It convinces you that every sacrifice was necessary, every betrayal justified, every loss temporary. So Zara doubled down, She worked longer hours, took more meetings, sharpened her image, learned to speak with confidence even when she felt hollow. And for a while, it worked. Then Ethan Cole entered the company. He arrived without fanfare, which made his impact more dangerous. He was introduced as the new Executive Director of Business Development, a board-requested hire with an impressive record and a calm presence that made people lean in rather than compete. He wasn't loud, didn't posture, didn't perform power the way most executives did. He simply had it. "Everyone," said one of the senior officers, "I'd like you to meet Ethan Cole. He'll be working closely with Zara." Zara extended her hand. "I've heard a lot about you." Ethan shook it. "I'm looking forward to working with you." His voice was steady, warm but measured. Employees noticed immediately that he treated assistants, clerks, interns, and senior managers with the same level of respect. He thanked people by name. He listened all the way through when someone spoke. He didn't talk over others to prove authority. In an environment built on hierarchy, simple decency looked almost radical. Zara found herself watching him. At first, she told herself it was professional curiosity. Then her car broke down after work. The engine clicked, failed, then flashed an error message across the dashboard. Zara sighed, irritated. She hated inconvenience, hated anything that disrupted the image of control she had spent so long constructing. A knock came at her window. "Ethan. Need a ride?" "I don't usually accept rides," she said. "I wasn't trying to impress you," he replied. Something about that made her laugh. On the drive, city lights slipped across the windshield. They talked about work at first, then about ambition, then about the questions successful people hate when they don't have a real answer. "What drives you?" Ethan asked. "Success," Zara said immediately. He glanced at her. "Why?" She looked out the window. For once, she had no polished answer ready. He dropped her off and simply said, "Good night, Zara." No flirting, no push, no performance. And somehow, that unsettled her more than charm would have. After that, small moments began to build between them. Morning coffee before meetings. Brief conversations that stretched longer than expected. A joke that made Zara smile in a way even her co-workers noticed. "You always get here this early?" she asked one morning. "Old habit," Ethan said. "I like having a little quiet before everyone arrives." "That's surprisingly philosophical for business development." He smiled. "I get that a lot." He invited her downstairs for coffee. She said yes. He asked about her dreams. Real dreams, not career goals dressed up as identity. She surprised herself by answering honestly. "I wanted to be a writer once," she said. "My family pushed me toward law, then business happened." "That's beautiful," Ethan said. And he said it like he meant it. There was no strategy in him, no hunger to dominate the room, no need to weaponize vulnerability. He seemed built from a different kind of strength. Meanwhile, Nia watched all of it from a careful distance. Years had passed since Zara stole her work, but some wounds don't heal cleanly. They harden. They change the way your confidence enters a room. Nia had continued working, but the betrayal had left a scar that touched everything. Her voice in meetings, her willingness to trust, the way she judged her own talent even when it was obvious. She no longer walked beside Zara. Now they passed each other professionally, politely, like survivors of a fire pretending smoke didn't still live in their lungs. One Saturday, Zara followed Ethan somewhere she never expected. Not a private club, not a board lunch, not a political fundraiser. A small community home on the edge of the city. Children ran through the courtyard. Older women sorted donated supplies. Ethan stepped out carrying bags, and before Zara could even hide, he saw her and smiled. "So," he said, "this is where you discovered I disappear every Saturday?" She looked around. "You volunteer here?" "My sister used to," he said. "After she left, I promised I'd keep coming." An elderly woman seated under a shaded awning reached for his hand like she had known him forever. Ethan bent down, spoke to her softly, then helped organize medicine deliveries, food packages, and books for the children. Zara stood there, watching a man with executive authority move through the place with zero need to be admired for it. He handed her a small bundle of flowers at one point. "For you," he said. "For me?" "One of the women here says flowers make people smile." Zara looked at them, then at him, and felt something in her chest shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but enough to be noticed. That afternoon, as the sun turned softer and the noise around them settled, Ethan sat beside her on a low wall. "People spend their whole lives chasing success," he said. "Sometimes they forget to build a life." Zara stared ahead. "Maybe some people don't know how. Then maybe they learn." For a moment, she almost told him everything. About Nia, about Daniel, about the piece of herself she had traded for the life she thought she wanted. But she didn't. Confession requires courage, and Zara had spent years surviving through control. Still, Ethan changed her. Not into someone innocent, not instantly into someone healed, but into someone who started noticing the emptiness in her victories. If this story is hitting hard for you, go ahead and like the video and subscribe right now. Stories like this remind us that success, betrayal, love, and consequences are never as simple as they first appear. And trust me, the biggest truth in this story hasn't even come out yet. Then everything started unraveling. It began with a contract review. David Benson, a senior legal operator inside Regal Global, was called into Zara's office over discrepancies in a high-value agreement. He was slick, evasive, and too calm for someone whose numbers were falling apart under scrutiny. "These figures don't make sense," Zara said, sliding the papers across her desk. David skimmed them without concern. "There are always minor irregularities at this scale. These aren't minor." He looked at her, expression flat. "Be careful, Zara. Some things are larger than they seem." The deal collapsed. The client walked. And for the first time, Zara felt something moving beneath the surface of the company she had fought so hard to rise within. Soon after, Ethan received a phone call that changed the tone of everything. His grandmother, already fragile, had become weaker. Her memory was slipping faster. He visited her more often after that. Whatever private burden he carried seemed heavier, though he tried not to show it. One day, a staff member at the care home told him that an unknown woman had come by. She hadn't left her name, but she had spoken to his grandmother long enough to make her cry. That same week, Ethan found something. A note, a clue, a name. Grace. And beneath that name lay the truth he had really come back for. Grace Cole was Ethan's sister. Years earlier, she had worked inside Regal Global and had been accused of theft, fraud, and internal sabotage. Her career had been destroyed, her freedom taken, her name dragged through scandal until everyone believed she was guilty. Everyone except Ethan. Now, pieces were beginning to return. A file hidden for years, a whispered warning, a memory from his grandmother, a picture. And in that picture was something impossible. Zara. Not just as a colleague, as family. When Ethan confronted his grandmother with the photograph, her old eyes filled with sorrow. "Why is Zara in our family picture?" he asked. His grandmother looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether the truth would heal or destroy him. "Because she was family," she said. And then the past broke open. Years ago, after tragedy struck and Zara lost her parents, Ethan's family had taken her in. She had grown up in their home alongside Ethan, Grace, and Naya, who spent much of her childhood there too. They had eaten at the same table, made promises as children, and called each other family in the loose but powerful way love sometimes creates. "No fighting in this house," Ethan's grandmother used to say. "You are all family. When we grow up," they had promised, "we'll never leave each other." But adulthood had done what greed always does. It had found the weakest fracture and widened it. Back when they were trainees at Regal Global, Grace, Zara, and Naya discovered suspicious withdrawals in the company accounts. Millions had been disappearing through fake transactions. They traced the approvals upward and found signatures connected to powerful leadership. Grace wanted to report everything to internal audit. Naya was afraid, but agreed they couldn't stay silent. Zara was nervous, but at that point, she still hadn't crossed the line. Then, the chairman called her in. What happened in that room became the axis upon which all their lives turned. "Only one of you gets promoted," he told her. He offered Zara a future, power, proximity, protection. All she had to do was give a statement. Say Grace entered the records room. Say Grace accessed files she shouldn't have. Say Grace was responsible. If Zara refused, Grace would rise and Zara would be left behind. If Zara agreed, she would become the chairman's executive assistant, and from there, her climb would begin. Fear and ambition are terrible advisors. Zara chose herself. She lied. Grace was framed, evidence was destroyed, and Naya, already watching her best friend become someone harder, colder, learned the cost of trusting Zara twice. But the deeper truth was even worse. The chairman wasn't the mastermind. He was only one piece of a darker machine. David Benson had been watching them the whole time, not helping, monitoring. And behind all of them stood a board member named Solomon Ademi, a man so powerful he operated like a shadow behind the company's public face. By the time Ethan and Zara started uncovering these pieces, the chairman was dead, which meant the man giving the orders was still alive, still protected, still dangerous. Zara's guilt, once buried under luxury and titles, started coming back with force. She looked exhausted, distracted, frayed around the edges. "You don't have to pretend around me," Ethan told her one evening. She tried to smile. "I'm fine." "No," he said gently. "You're carrying something." That almost broke her. But before she could tell him everything, the threat escalated. A warning arrived. Stop digging, or disappear just like Grace. By then, Grace herself had begun to re-emerge through fragments of hidden evidence, old testimony, and messages she had prepared long ago in case anyone ever came looking for the truth. One message was especially devastating. "If Zara tells you the truth, forgive her." That message shattered Ethan. Not because it excused Zara, but because only someone deeply wounded could offer grace like that. Zara finally confessed. "I lied to you," she said. "I lied for years. Grace never stole anything. She never betrayed the company. I destroyed her life. I chose myself. Ethan stood in silence as every memory rearranged itself in his mind. She was my sister, he said. I know. You were family. Tears filled Zara's eyes. I've hated myself every day since. He turned away, unable to answer. There are betrayals so deep that apology sounds smaller than dust. Still, the truth had surfaced. And once truth rises, it starts pulling everything else with it. Using the files Grace had hidden, Ethan and Zara followed the money. Fake withdrawals, front companies, political payments, bank transfers routed through shell entities, internal compliance records rewritten, executive approvals masked under layered sign-offs. This was no simple theft operation. It was an empire. A laundering network hidden inside a respected corporation. And the closer they got, the more obvious it became that Solomon Ademi had built something far larger than corporate fraud. He had built a machine that bought influence, erased threats, and punished curiosity. He invited them to a meeting. That alone told Ethan it was a trap. But some truths can only be reached by stepping into danger. We can't walk in blind, Zara said. We're not walking in for ourselves, Ethan replied. Grace deserves the truth. They went. The room was large, elegant, almost serene in the obscene way power likes to decorate its violence. Solomon stood at the far end, perfectly composed. So, he said, you finally found me. His voice carried no panic, only amusement. For years, Ethan said, we chased the wrong man. Solomon smiled faintly. That happens. He walked slowly as he spoke, like a lecturer explaining a concept too advanced for his students. Grace was never my problem, he said. She simply started asking questions, and questions are dangerous. David did exactly what I paid him to do. Destroy evidence. Frame whoever needed to be framed. The chairman believed he controlled this company. He forgot who built it. He forgot who truly owned it. Zara felt cold all over. This company stopped being a business years ago, Solomon continued. It became an empire. We clean money. We buy governments. We erase problems. The moment any of you started auditing those accounts, your fate was sealed. You murdered him, Ethan said, realizing the implication. Solomon's eyes barely moved. Curiosity killed him too. Then he looked directly at Zara. And you, he said, were useful. Somewhere inside her, the illusion of being a player in the game died completely. She had never been powerful, only used. If you've made it this far, this is the perfect moment to subscribe to the channel and hit like, because the final stretch of this story is where every lie collapses, every secret gets exposed, and every character is forced to face what they really became. Solomon spread his hands slightly. Too late anyway. The evidence is gone. But Ethan smiled. Not all of it. Grace had prepared for this years earlier. Everything they tried to destroy, she had already copied, hidden, and preserved through channels nobody inside Regal Global knew existed. Internal records, transaction trails, correspondence, authorization histories, backup files. Enough to expose not just the fraud, but the architecture behind it. At Ethan's signal, law enforcement moved in. Doors opened, voices shouted. David Benson was arrested first, shock finally cracking his composure. Solomon tried to recover the moment with threats, then with contempt, then with silence. None of it worked. Handcuffs have a way of making powerful men look suddenly mortal. Charges followed fast: conspiracy, fraud, money laundering, unlawful imprisonment, obstruction, and renewed investigation into the chairman's death.
The fallout was massive. News stations ran the story for days. Board members were detained. Records were reopened. Regal Global's image collapsed under the weight of years of hidden corruption. And then, after everything, Grace Cole was officially cleared. Her name, dragged through shame for years, was finally restored. Justice did not erase what happened, but it ended the lie. When Zara stood in front of Grace again, there was no stage, no polished image, no executive armor left to protect her. Just a woman facing the ruins she had helped create. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," Zara said. Grace looked at her for a long moment. "I know." Zara's voice trembled. "I stole your future. I let innocent people suffer because I was afraid." Grace breathed in slowly, carrying years of pain inside one tired body. "I forgive you," she said at last, "because I don't want to carry this pain forever."
But forgiveness does not erase what happened. Zara closed her eyes. "You took my career," Grace continued. "You took my freedom. You took years of my life. You were my sister, and you chose them." Tears slipped down Zara's face. "I can forgive you," Grace said, "but I can't trust you." That was the sentence that truly punished her. Not prison, not scandal, not public shame. To be forgiven and still unrepaired. To be seen clearly and not welcomed back. Some losses do not reverse. Zara then went to Nia. Of all the apologies she owed, this one had lived inside her the longest. "I stole your project," she said. "I took credit for your work. I betrayed you." Nia's face was calm, but her eyes were not empty. They carried memory. "I forgave you a long time ago," Nia said. Zara looked up hopefully, but Nia continued. "That doesn't mean it stopped hurting. You didn't just steal my idea. You stole my confidence. For years, I thought maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe if I had been stronger, louder, smarter, maybe it would have been mine. That's what betrayal does. It makes the victim question themselves." Zara had no defense, no explanation, no polished statement. Just regret, too late to be useful. Nia left her with the truth and walked away. And life, slowly, began choosing new directions. Not perfect ones, real ones. Ethan, who had returned to clear his sister's name, found something he had not expected along the way. Peace. Not easily, not quickly, but honestly. The mission that brought him back had defined him for so long that once it ended, he had to learn how to live beyond grief. And somewhere in the middle of all that rebuilding, he found himself looking at Nia in a different light. Maybe it had always been there under the surface. The shared history, the loyalty, the way she stayed steady when everything around her shook. Or maybe some people only become visible to us after we've survived enough to recognize what strength actually looks like. One day, while the world was still settling after the scandal, Ethan asked her to dinner. "You look beautiful today," he said, a little awkwardly, which made her smile. "That sounds serious," Nia teased. "It is," he admitted. "I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time." She waited. "Would you let me take you to dinner sometime?" Nia smiled, softer this time.
I'd like that. Dinner became conversation. Conversation became companionship. Companionship became trust. And for people who had both lived through betrayal, trust was no small thing. It was sacred, deliberate, earned slowly.
Months later, Ethan brought her to a quiet place filled with memory, where the air felt still enough to hold something important. "You stood by my family when everyone else walked away," he told her. "You became home when everything else felt broken." Naya's eyes filled before he even reached into his pocket. "Naya," he said, his voice shaking now, "will you marry me?" She laughed through tears. "Yes. Yes." For once, the future did not arrive as ambition. It arrived as peace. But not everyone got peace. Zara remained on the outside of the life she had once imagined she was securing. The company title that once defined her no longer mattered. The applause, the promotion, the apartment, the car, the benefits. All of it looked strangely cheap after truth had stripped away its glamour. She had won everything she thought she wanted, and lost the only things that could have made winning mean anything. One evening, she stood alone with memories pressing in from every side. The award speeches, Naya's face in that boardroom, Daniel walking away from the dinner table, Grace's shattered future, Ethan's silence after her confession, the family photograph, the promise they made as children that they would never leave each other. She had broken that promise long before anyone knew it. Success had changed how people looked at her, but guilt changed how she looked at herself. And that is the harder mirror to escape. Some say karma arrives like thunder. It doesn't. Sometimes karma is quieter than that. Sometimes it is success that tastes like ash. Sometimes it is the dream you fought for finally landing in your hands, only for you to realize your hands are empty everywhere else. Sometimes it is standing at the top of a mountain and understanding too late that you climbed it alone, because you pushed everyone away on the way up. And sometimes, karma is not revenge. Sometimes it is clarity, the kind that forces you to live with the full truth of what you did. As for Regal Global, the company never fully recovered its old image. New leadership came in. Oversight tightened. Investigations expanded. The press continued digging. More names surfaced. More quiet executives became public cautionary tales. Empires built on hidden rot never collapse neatly. Grace, though still carrying scars, began reclaiming her life. Not the exact life stolen from her, because stolen years never return, but a life built with dignity, truth, and her name restored. Ethan stayed close. Their family, fractured and exhausted, started learning how to breathe without fear again. Naya stepped into her own strength more fully than ever before. The brilliance that had once been stolen from her no longer needed anyone's permission to exist. She spoke with confidence in rooms that once intimidated her. She no longer measured her worth by whether power recognized it. She knew now, and that knowledge changed the way she carried herself. Daniel, too, moved on with the quiet dignity of a man who had loved honestly and survived being discarded. Some wounds leave bitterness. Others leave wisdom. In time, he came to understand that losing Zara had actually spared him from building a life with someone still at war with her own soul. And Zara? Zara lived. That may sound simple, but living with the consequences of your choices is its own sentence. No headline can fully punish betrayal. No courtroom can fully sentence moral failure. Sometimes the real punishment is waking up every day knowing exactly where the roads split, and knowing you chose wrong. Maybe she changed after that. Maybe she became gentler. Maybe regret softened the sharp edges ambition once carved into her. Maybe she spent years trying to become someone the younger version of herself would not fear. Maybe. But redemption is not a speech. It is not tears. It is not even apology. It is a lifetime of choosing differently when the easy, selfish option appears again. And the truth is, not everyone who regrets their past earns their way back into the hearts they broke. Some doors forgive you and still remain closed. That is part of justice too. So if there is one thing this story leaves behind, it is this. Winning is not the same as being worthy. Power is not proof of value. Success built on betrayal is just another form of failure wearing expensive clothes. And the people who seem to have everything may be carrying the one emptiness they can never outrun. Because in the end, the world does remember winners, but it also remembers what it cost them to win. And sometimes that memory is the very thing that destroys them.